All right, everybody on the Pro Forum, another cool Photoshop trick for you. Here we go. Dark eyes. I know you guys have had this problem before, and what to do. So here's what I like to do. First thing I like to do, really dark brown eyes. Before we go into this, I need you to understand you gotta be careful with this because you can go too far. I've already done some of this and actually went so far and fixed it so good that the customer hated it. They were like, my baby has these dark eyes. Where's those beautiful dark eyes? And I made them too light. So again, be real cautious with this technique. First thing I like to do is I like to have a definitive pupil. Okay, so you see I have light in the pupil. If we get really close to this pupil, that black area right there, that's me. This white area around it is the light firing against my back wall. This is my main light. This is the reflector that's on the table. So the main light, bouncing reflector, bouncing light into the world, and if you see I have this nice wraparound effect because my main light touches into where the background, the lights fire against the back wall. So to get rid of that, the first thing I do is I take my paintbrush in black, normal mode, 100%, and I paint out this to where I have a nice definitive black pupil, okay? I like to have both eyes on the screen so that I can see what I'm doing. To one, I always like to do to the other at the same time, so I don't tend to mess up that way. Okay, next thing I like to do is I like to make sure that my main light is the highlight or one of the brightest parts of the eye. Okay, now and I did that, by the way, with the dodge tool, mid-tones, 100%, very important. You have the protected tones unchecked, okay? Now after I highlight like that, I will then get it as big as the pupil. I will hold down my Alt key, and which turns it into the burn tool, and that makes my pupil not quite so defined, kind of softens it around the edges. Let go of the Alt key, it turns back into the dodge tool, reduce the size. Now here's the cool trick with dark eyes. Be real cautious. Sometimes you got to drop the exposure, believe it or not, on mid-tones, protected tones not touched, and you give it a little swoosh right here. Give it a little swoosh, little swoosh. Now, what happens, because dark brown eyes are actually very close to black in tone, that swoosh can look very unnatural. So you got to get a color in that swoosh that looks natural. Now that color, coincidentally, happens to be, let me go to my paintbrush, change it from normal to color, that color, and then hold down your Alt key and click right in here underneath the eye on the skin, and it makes this dark skin color, which is the color that this swoosh needs to be. All right, I make my brush a little bit bigger. Actually, I'm gonna reduce my opacity to in the 60s, high 60s. I'm gonna rub it in here, and then rub it in here. And so now my dark eyes are just not quite so dark. They're much more fun to look at, in my opinion. And every time I typically do this with clients, they're just like, oh my God, you made my eyes so beautiful, so perfect. So just play with this and get it to your liking, because that is the trick. It's got to be to your liking, okay? And more importantly, your customer's liking. Once you get there, boom, then you got something. Hopefully this helps. Y'all have a good